Alright, let us jump onto this dreary divorce road where our main character suddenly gets a totally unhinged superpower. He could suddenly hear his wife's innermost thoughts. His totally aloof, emotionally frozen ice queen of a wife was sitting right next to him, looking at him with nothing but pure, unadulterated disgust. But inside her head, a completely different, wildly dramatic voice was screaming at the top of its lungs, begging her hubby not to get a divorce. What if she faked a medical emergency? If she told him her stomach hurt, would that actually work? She begged him not to leave a gorgeous girl like her, with flawless skin, legs for days, and a face that never declined. If someone else picked her up off the streets, they would absolutely never return her to him. Finders keepers. Hearing this chaotic mental broadcast, he completely froze up right there in the driver's seat. Wait, did he just hear that? Confused, he cautiously glanced at the rearview mirror, but his wife was just sitting there quietly. She just stared out the window, her face as cold and unreadable as a marble statue. He figured it was just some bizarre auditory hallucination, his own mind playing wild tricks on him. Now watch closely as he tests the waters, asking if this divorce would even have a major impact on her life. Hearing his words, Chloe did not even blink, replying in a chillingly flat tone that could freeze a volcano. She claimed it would not affect her, mentioning that their elite social circle had a strict, unspoken rule. There is no divorce, only widows. But internally, she just wanted her hubby's cuddles and sweet forehead kisses. Hearing her inner voice so loud and clear again, he hesitated and stole another quick glance at the passenger seat. Chloe still wore that exquisite, frosty expression, with not a single muscle twitching out of place. Unbelievable. This was definitely no hallucination. The wild reality was that he could telepathically eavesdrop on his wife's inner thoughts. He was 100% certain her pretty mouth had not moved a single millimeter. Sensing his intense gaze, Chloe suddenly turned to face him, claiming she was feeling a bit under the weather today. She asked to postpone the divorce paperwork, but internally, she was throwing a full-blown mental parade. She praised herself for being so brave. She was begging her hubby inside to just say yes. She wanted to go home and cancel. She promised she could act cute, be a domineering boss babe, or a sweet, clingy baby girl. Did he want black tights, knee-highs, or fishnets? She wanted to know his exact aesthetic and flavor. She could adapt and do it all. Meanwhile, our main character felt a massive headache brewing behind his eyes. It was way too loud, but he was undeniably certain this was Chloe's real, unfiltered voice. You and I saw this coming, right? He hesitated, sighed, and agreed to head back home for today. At this absolute victory, her eyes lit up like literal fireworks, but she immediately reined her excitement right back in. Feigning a highly reserved aristocratic nod, she coldly agreed to turn back, keeping her composure perfectly. During the entire drive back home, Chloe finally breathed a massive mental sigh of relief. She was happily humming upbeat pop tunes in her mind the entire way, while chanting her hubby's name on an endless, looping playlist. Only now, after 2 full years of marriage, did the realization finally hit him like a truck. He did not understand his wife at all. What happened to that high and mighty, untouchable goddess professor? Who is this clingy, super thirsty chatterbox? Truth be told, he and Chloe had what you call a flash marriage. They agreed to build their romantic feelings after tying the knot, but harsh reality hit them hard. Both were completely drowning in their careers, and Chloe's frosty personality made her impossible to approach. Instead of a loving married couple, they felt like 2 very polite roommates simply splitting the rent. They had slept in separate, detached bedrooms this whole time. Upon reaching home, they walked inside one after the other, keeping their usual awkward distance. She blankly stated she was not feeling well and was heading straight to her room to rest. But the moment she gracefully turned upstairs, her chaotic mental broadcast blasted at maximum volume. She needed to search online immediately for a guide on how to coax your husband 101. She had to find her thigh-high stockings, even though she had no idea what her hubby liked. How could she strut around in them without looking totally desperate? It was incredibly annoying to her. Why did her hubby prefer aloof, arrogant ice queens? He could simp for a cold block of ice, but not for her, despite how gorgeous she was. Hold on, whoever said he liked ice queens? You and I both know that is pure slander against his character. Let's see how this hilarious contrast actually made me super interested in Chloe. More importantly, her inner voice definitely did not sound like a wife who was over her husband. It felt like a massive, universe-sized misunderstanding was somehow wedged right between us. Unfortunately, I did not see Chloe leave her room for the rest of the afternoon. Guess our rooms were just too far apart. My telepathic Wi-Fi connection to her thoughts completely dropped, and I could not hear a single thing. Since I had a business dinner with a major client that night, I knocked on her door to let her know before leaving. A cold, brief got it echoed from inside. Instantly, her inner thoughts started bawling again, crying that her sweet husband had not eaten with her in ages. He is always busy working, but she tells herself he needs a sensible, independent wife who supports his career. She actually thinks he wants a divorce, Just because she is not sensible enough, how tragic. Now she is worrying about her face getting puffy from crying. But wait, why is she crying over a simple dinner meeting? Honestly, my own emotions were becoming a total tangled mess. I mean, I always pictured Chloe as this untouchable, ice-cold professor who looked down on everyone. And trust me, you and I never would have guessed she was actually a clingy crybaby who just wanted love. After locking down the business deal and securing the cash, I made it back home surprisingly early. Fresh out of the shower, I lay on my bed with one massive question echoing in my head: are we actually going through with this divorce? I have always been a decisive guy. Dragging things out is just not my style. Before finalizing a life-altering choice like divorce, I knew I had to sit down with Chloe, have a real talk, and figure out what was happening in her head. Right then, a soft knock came from my door. Snapping out of it, I sat up and told her to come in, only to find Chloe standing awkwardly in the doorway. She had clearly just showered. Her long, damp hair was cascading beautifully all the way down her back. Those usually fierce and intimidating peach blossom eyes of hers were looking slightly downcast, giving her this surprisingly delicate, vulnerable vibe. I awkwardly asked if she needed something. I quickly looked away, mostly because I was still mentally scarred by her crazy internal monologue from earlier. It was late at night, with a gorgeous woman alone in my bedroom. Honestly, it was hard to keep my thoughts from wandering to adult activities. My chest still feels a bit tight and uncomfortable. She asks if I can check, and you and I can hear how her icy tone has melted into pure shyness. And then her mind starts screaming, begging her husband not to reject her. She claims she will cry a river, especially after spending hours preparing for this. Apparently, she gave herself a 3-hour pep talk in the mirror, but I am no medical expert. I offer to drive her to the emergency room right now, fully prepared to grab my keys and go. But her soft, delicate hand immediately shoots out, pressing down on my shoulder and telling me there is no need. Mentally, she is begging me not to look at her, because her heart is pounding completely out of control. It is doing extreme parkour inside her chest and crashing into walls because she is so incredibly nervous. She thinks I am so handsome and swoon-worthy, and maybe her intense anxiety made her thoughts echo even louder. Either way, I clearly heard her blurt out that forbidden word hubby. She freezes, then quickly recovers, asking if I can massage her chest since it feels so tight. In that exact moment, the bedroom falls into a deafening, incredibly awkward silence where you could hear a pin drop. Even her hyperactive inner monologue totally flatlines from pure shock, as the entire room freezes over. I look at the gorgeous girl before me, her face flushed beet red and her lips pressed tightly together. Since she refuses to speak, I have to take charge and break this heavy tension. So, your chest is tight? No, it is not. Chloe is mentally weeping with regret, wishing she could drown her reckless mouth in 3 shots of tequila. How could she let her unfiltered thoughts slip out loud? This was definitely not the script she practiced. And now, you and I are going to wait and see what crazy explanation she comes up with. Alright, you and I are about to watch her defy all logic by grabbing his hand. She shoves his hand right over her heart, biting her lip, claiming her chest is suddenly feeling super tight. She tells him a massage will help, secretly deciding that since she already messed up, she should just pounce. Cheering herself on, she keeps his hand pinned to her chest, making his fingers twitch in pure panic. He swears on his bank account and his ancestors. It was just a total reflex. He did not mean to be a pervert, but honestly, the guy is not complaining. After that accidental squeeze, Chloe turns an absolute shade of bright strawberry pink across her skin. Stuttering, he mutters something about finding some chest tightness pills in the cabinet. He awkwardly tries to stand up, his body completely stiff and unnatural. But Chloe has already gone way too far to simply back down now and let him escape. Her instant reflex is to shove him back onto the mattress, but she totally misjudged her own upper body strength. Gravity takes over, and she tumbles right onto the bed, dragging him down. As they fall together, she grabs onto something solid. She realizes he has abs, and pay attention, because her inner thoughts are about to get wild. Is it really a crime to be a little thirsty for your own legal husband? Why not use this golden opportunity to cop a feel? Under her gaze, his eyes finally roll in shock. Hearing her wild, thirsty inner monologue completely heats up his own face. He quickly catches her hand as it sneaks like a gremlin toward his stomach, telling her to get up. He jokes she is crushing his lungs, proving she is only bold inside her own mind. Hearing him, she frantically scrambles, flailing her limbs to push herself up and away, stuttering endless apologies as she thinks back on the absolute chaos of the last 5 minutes. Her body feels like total jelly, so he kindly reaches out to help her steady herself. He aims for her shoulder, but in the awkward, tangled mess, his hands end up wrapping right around her waist. Chloe almost stands up, but she freezes completely the exact second he touches her waist. Next second, she melts like a puddle right back onto him, leaving him dumbfounded. With his hands on her waist, you and I have to ask how an adult flops like a wet noodle. He tells her, with total helplessness, that it is hard not to suspect she is doing this on purpose. She stammers that her waist is just super sensitive and cannot be touched so casually. Hearing this, an old memory finally clicks into place. Back when they first got married, they bumped into some friends, and to act like a loving husband, he put his arm around her waist. The result? She instantly froze like a board. Her polite smile completely vanished, and she shot him a glaring, intense look that he definitely noticed. Thinking he had crossed a major boundary, he quickly pulled his hand back to apologize. Every other time he accidentally grazed her waist, she reacted the exact same way with total stiffness. Over 2 long years, he truly believed she just absolutely hated his physical touch. Well, everyone has their preferences, and he definitely has a massive weakness for slender waists. But looking at her now, it was clearly all just one massive misunderstanding. Now that he knows she is just ticklish and sensitive, he is actually getting excited. Maybe he is the pervert here. 2 minutes later, they are sitting rigidly on the sofa. She stares at him with her signature cold academic look. But that bright blush on her face is still there, waiting for him to speak first and lead. Inside, her mind is screaming that she only wants to talk about falling in love and kissing. She dreads this conversation because the last time they talked, he brought up divorce papers. She rejects this chat, but he is obviously here for business, even with his wife looking incredible. The key is that he can hear her thoughts, finally solving the mystery of her bizarre behavior. Let's watch how he calmly handles this now. Alright, you and I are starting this story with a guy trying to divorce his cold, perfect wife. Is that so? Personally, I don't think we have any problems at all. Everything we do follows the prenuptial agreement we signed before getting married. Honestly, I have no idea what your real reasons for wanting a divorce are, but I respect your choices. Then, she elegantly reached up with her pale, slender hand to tuck a stray hair behind her ear. It was devastatingly seductive, except her frantic inner voice was totally destroying the elegant mood, screaming, "Oh my God, why does my husband want a divorce? What home-wrecking witch is trying to steal my man? Does she have a better hourglass figure than me? Is she prettier? Does she have more doctorates? Does she look more intellectual and aloof than me? Even if I am totally faking it, I did it perfectly for 2 whole years. Who is this fox spirit?" This insane barrage of mental screaming made my head throb. Honestly, you and I have to laugh, because this cold, perfect wife is actually a completely unhinged drama queen inside. My brain was doing backflips. Her mental screaming was too loud to even think. Unable to hold back my frustration, I snapped. "You shut up first." Instantly, the world went dead silent. Realizing I messed up, I looked at the girl across from me. Chloe's gorgeous eyes filled with instant hurt as she mumbled softly. I stayed silent. Oh my God, hubby is so dominant. But even when he is yelling at me, he looks incredibly handsome. I want to kneel and call him master. "Chloe, you absolute freak." But if it is hubby holding the whip, maybe that is not bad. I am kind of into it. Wait, what is she thinking? I was completely bewildered. She actually had that kind of kink. I was once again shocked into dead silence. The perfect image of my untouchable goddess wife was collapsing faster than a house of cards in a massive hurricane. Right then, Chloe watched me staring blankly at her with a completely horrified expression. She panicked, wondering if she was too eager and accidentally exposed her kinky nature. Before she could spiral further, I finally spoke up, cutting off her wild thoughts. First, I had to clarify that wanting a divorce had nothing to do with some imaginary home wrecker. I just wanted to talk about our issues. Let's pause here. He is trying to explain that the divorce was just based on their prenuptial agreement. If we lived together for a couple of years and felt zero spark, or if one of us fell for someone else, we would divorce peacefully. Since you agreed so fast, I assumed you also felt absolutely zero spark between us. Besides, didn't I hear that you still have a massive crush on some older school senior in your heart? Hearing this, Chloe's expression went icy cold, her eyes hiding something deep and dark, and totally panicked inside. So, she thought, you either have someone else, or you feel absolutely nothing for me? Was our connection completely one-sided this entire time? Am I going to literally explode from unrequited love? Hubby feels nothing. I am just a tragic, pitiful beauty. Out loud, she said. I don't have anyone else. For the past 2 years, I have been focused on my company. I thought you were just tired of our passionless routine. After all, you did not object to the divorce at all. And I heard back in high school, you had a massive, unforgettable crush on some older senior. Instantly, her ice-cold mask shattered into absolute dust. A deep blush crept right back up her slender neck, completely engulfing her face with a burning vengeance. Seeing her crazy intense reaction, I completely forgot what I was even going to say next. That tiny spark of hope that had just ignited in my heart was instantly snuffed out. With a visceral reaction like that, I couldn't convince myself she didn't care about this mystery guy. So, Chloe really did have another man living rent-free in her heart. I sighed, looking away. If you love someone else, there is no need to stay chained to a loveless marriage. I simply cannot accept my wife harboring deep romantic feelings for another man while living under my roof. Another man? Blushing furiously, Chloe was completely taken aback by my words. At first, she thought I had discovered her secret thoughts and realized she was a massive pervert, hence the divorce. In her mind, she screamed, "Hubby, why can't you see that the senior is literally you?" Fine, I'll just confess, but I'm so shy. Is now a good time to tell him? Is it appropriate? And trust me, you and I just saw him realize that her legendary crush was actually him. But I am 2 years older than Chloe, and she studied university abroad, so we definitely did not attend the same college. That senior must be from school. But look at her flawless face. Trust me, you and I would never forget a girl that pretty, yet he has zero memory of her. Just as I opened my mouth to ask, Chloe suddenly stood right up from the sofa. When you brought up the divorce earlier, it was not because I did not care. I had a major crisis with an experiment at the university lab and had to run back. As for that senior, he is completely in the past. Her hands trembled slightly at her sides, showing her deep anxiety. I am really not feeling well today. I think we should save this talk for another day. What do you think? Can we find another time to talk? While looking totally calm, Chloe was mentally screaming like an ambulance siren. I cannot confess looking like this. My makeup is not perfect, and my image is ruined. I really think girls have so much unnecessary mental baggage sometimes. I do not get it, but I respect it. Plus, I desperately needed some time to process this incredibly chaotic relationship dynamic, too. Now pay attention, because here's the crazy part, he is actually the senior she loves, even though he cannot remember ever meeting her, so he just nods along. Is 3 days from now okay? I have an out-of-town business trip tomorrow. Chloe gave a stiff nod, nervously clutching her shirt, and whispered that she was going back to rest and wished him a good night. I wished her good night, watching this girl who looked totally cold and untouchable on the outside, but was screaming like a crazy fangirl on the inside. As she walked to her room, I leaned back on the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. Everything that went down today felt like a wild fever dream. Should I go see a psychiatrist tomorrow? It was crazy, but hearing her call me hubby over and over in that sweet, desperate tone was actually amazing. Meanwhile, back in her room, Chloe was rolling around her bed like a burrito, her face burning up with pure embarrassment. She squeezed her giant teddy bear, covering her mouth to hide a literal scream. Does Liam actually know? Does he know I have secretly loved him for years? But soon, her genius intellect kicked in, and things did not add up. She sat straight up, throwing the bear aside. Wait, no. That makes zero sense. If Liam knew he was that senior, he would not have complained about another guy being in my heart. And yeah, I know what you were thinking. How on earth did he even find out about her secret crush? That summer, many years ago, the first time she saw that boy, she was completely and hopelessly captivated. She was brilliant, boasting a high intelligence. While other kids were in primary school, she skipped grades straight to the 3rd year of middle school. She never stayed in one class for long, which made her feel incredibly isolated and quiet. Eventually, jealous classmates started bullying her. One day after school, she was cornered in a dark alleyway by a group of older delinquent punks from a nearby school. Just as they were about to harass her, a passing boy heard the noise and ran over. He fearlessly yelled, asking who bullies little kids, quickly chasing the punks away with pure confidence. He turned to her and asked if she had a fancy smartwatch to call her parents. Hearing this, the girl was completely stunned. She looked down at her own school uniform. It was clearly a middle school uniform, and she was a 3rd-year student. Did she really look that small? Suddenly, a few loud boys walked out of the alley and shouted for Liam to play basketball. He replied over his shoulder, telling them to go ahead. I will catch up. I seem to have found a lost little kid. I need to take her to the police station so she does not get kidnapped. For some reason, she immediately memorized his name, Liam, and quietly followed him to the station without saying a single word. Once her worried parents arrived, the boy handed her over to the officers and quickly left to play basketball. From that exact day on, the girl never once forgot the boy named Liam. Reliving this memory, Chloe grabbed her phone and furiously texted her best friend and advisor, Mia. Mia, did you not tell me your elite info said he absolutely loves cold, quiet, intellectual girls? I have been faking this Ice Queen persona for 2 whole years. Why does he not like me? And why does he want a divorce? Mia saw the midnight text and replied instantly. Babe, I think your real clingy personality is way more lovable. Honestly, I told you that info might be garbage. And that is where we leave it. She panicked and just ignored him. All right, you and I are diving into the wildest romantic misunderstanding. She tried to seduce her own husband but failed miserably, texting her friend from a cold, lonely bed. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Mia stared at her phone in absolute disbelief, typing back that either the husband is totally broken or she just was not hot enough. No straight guy would ever ignore her, but that secret intel about his ideal type came straight from his own best friend, Zach. The information had to be right. Mia texted back hesitantly, while Chloe lay in bed feeling completely crushed and depressed. Worse, he asked if she had been harboring feelings for an older classmate for a long time. He wants a divorce because he refuses to let his wife love someone else. But there is no other guy, it has always been him. Honestly, this level of miscommunication belongs in a massive web novel. Mia could not stand the drama and begged her to stop. They agreed to talk it out properly when he returns from his business trip in 3 days, since she could not keep faking things. She already tried throwing herself at him that night. No more pretending, she was going all in. The following morning, since he had an early flight, she stepped out of the kitchen looking absolutely gorgeous and domestic, holding warm toasted sandwiches and milk. Hearing him approach, she turned with a subtle, polite nod and a faint, gentle smile. Greeting him in her usual cold tone, she calmly asked if he wanted to eat breakfast together, appearing totally unfazed. Now watch closely, because this is where everything changes. He can suddenly hear her inner thoughts completely losing it. Oh my god, my husband looks so incredibly hot in that black shirt. My knees are weak, I might pass out. I love this so much. Wait, why is he just staring at me in total silence? Please say something. I will start drooling if he keeps looking at me like that. Hearing this, he smiled and wished her a good morning. He thanked her, which immediately made her brain malfunction again with wild thoughts that were definitely not PG. He was totally amazed. Who knew this highly educated, elegant girl was so completely unhinged inside? He originally thought her wild thoughts about fishnets and thigh highs were just dramatic jokes. But listening to her spicy internal monologues now, he realized she was entirely serious. She was absolutely head over heels for him, and he actually found himself eager to hear what she would think of next. On the outside, they quietly ate breakfast in perfect, polite silence. Let us pause here. Imagine waking up to a chaotic comedy show playing in your head. Honestly, what a hilarious way to start the morning. Before heading to the airport, he looked at Chloe, hesitated for a moment, and simply told her he was leaving. Inside, she was already throwing a massive tantrum about being separated from her husband, unable to bear the loneliness. But outwardly, she just widened her eyes in shock, nodded stiffly, and walked over to wish him a safe trip. He grabbed his suitcase, turning to walk away, but Chloe simply could not hold back her desperation any longer. She called out, telling him his tie was crooked, urgently offering to fix it for him right there. In her mind, she was plotting a wild heist, begging him not to make her drag him back to bed. She thought of herself as a national treasure he should never leave behind. He originally planned to just take the tie off in the cab anyway, since he only put it on out of habit. But hearing her chaotic thoughts, his hand paused on the doorknob. He looked at his aloof wife and asked her to help adjust it. Since he had no mirror, she happily agreed to help. Chloe worried her voice sounded far too eager, and the pure excitement in her beautiful eyes was already painfully obvious to anyone paying attention. She stepped incredibly close and reached out for his tie, even though it was not crooked at all. Honestly, she just wanted an excuse to touch him, lamenting that other wives get sweet hugs and romantic kisses before business trips. She had to invent lame excuses just to touch his tie, but she did not care. None of those other husbands were nearly as hot as hers. Naturally, standing this close, he heard every single thought. But giving her a hug felt wrong, especially since they were literally planning a divorce just yesterday. He cleared his throat softly, causing her hands to freeze before she reluctantly pulled away. The internal tears stopped, replaced entirely by a frantic chant demanding a kiss right then and there. She wanted him to attack her with his lips, but outwardly, she just calmly said okay. He decided that once they talked in 3 days, he definitely had to cure her of this extreme sundary habit. And honestly, you and I have to admit, keeping up this double life must absolutely melt her brain. You and I are about to see why this guy suddenly found his dream job incredibly annoying. He hadn't even left his neighborhood, yet he desperately wanted to cancel his flight and rush back home to her. Too bad, he was stuck traveling with his buddy Zach. They were heading out to meet a hotshot screenwriter. Zach knew a big deal who was supposed to connect their company with the real industry heavy hitters. Over the last few years, our main character's small, struggling studio had grown into a highly profitable company. They had signed top-tier comic artists and launched several original titles that were absolutely crushing the charts. Meeting at the airport terminal, Zach looked incredibly happy holding a coffee, but then he hesitated and asked, "Bro, aren't you supposed to get a divorce today? Why do you look so damn happy? Don't tell me you chickened out." The main character just shot him a freezing cold side-eye. "Your intel is surprisingly fast. How did you know we didn't split up?" Zach just laughed nervously. He was scratching his head in panic. See, Zach couldn't exactly admit he was still secretly talking to Mia. They had broken up ages ago, in a toxic, fiery explosion. Admitting he still texted his crazy ex would make him the laughingstock of the entire group. Plus, he definitely didn't want to confess that he had accidentally leaked the protagonist's personal secrets to her, basically playing double agent. So, Zach quickly tried to change the subject. "Bro, your wife is a top-tier, undeniable beauty. If you actually divorce her, Other guys will be lining up around the block to celebrate. Are you really letting a 10 out of 10 go? Now watch closely. The main character stops and glares at Zach without a word. Feeling completely crushed under that terrifying death stare, Zach mumbled, "What? Why are you looking at me like I stole your lunch money?" Our main character flashed a sudden, dangerous smile. "You seem way too invested in my wife's relationship status, buddy." "Bro, don't talk crazy. I have a crush. I'm loyal." Zach waved his hands around frantically in pure defense. "I was just thinking you said before your wife had a childhood crush she loved for years. By the way, how did you even find that out?" The husband thought to himself, "Thank goodness I can miraculously hear her inner voice now. Otherwise, this stupid misunderstanding would have destroyed my entire marriage." Then he dropped a massive bomb. "Did Mia tell you that?" "Bro, don't get mad. You guys haven't talked in forever, right? What exactly did she say to you?" This instantly reminded him of Chloe's weird thoughts from yesterday, about him only liking cold, intellectual girls. He didn't even know he had a specific type until yesterday, and honestly, he absolutely does not like that type. Elegant and intellectual? That is literally his mom and older sister's vibe. He does not have a weird Oedipus complex. He narrowed his eyes at Zach, slowly cracking his knuckles. He had a strong feeling Chloe's massive misunderstanding was directly caused by this idiot's big mouth. "I didn't say much, I swear. I just told her your type," Zach promised, quickly backing away. "I saw how well you clicked with Chloe during your blind dates, so since Mia was asking, I figured Chloe must be interested too. I thought telling her your type was a solid wingman move to help her out." No wonder. During their initial blind dates, Chloe was actually not this freezing cold. She did not talk much, but she smiled a lot, and her smile was beautiful. But the second they signed those marriage papers, she froze up completely and turned into an ice statue. Add in that whole awkward misunderstanding about touching her hypersensitive waist, and he truly believed she was just disgusted by him. Turns out, this absolute idiot is where it all started. He took a deep breath. "We've all had bad friends, but this guy? He is not a wingman, he is a straight-up saboteur. And what exactly did you tell her my type was?" "Give me details." "Elegant, intellectual, kind of an unapproachable flower on a high-peak vibe," Zach said, way too proud of himself. "And how did you reach that genius conclusion?" "You rejected that cute junior's public confession back in college, remember? That is how I figured it out. You literally told her you did not like hyperactive, clingy girls, and that you vastly preferred aloof, independent, intellectual women." Zach's voice trailed off as he noticed his friend's face turning pitch black with rage. Did he get it wrong? He was there, he heard the words, he remembered it perfectly. Through gritted teeth, the husband growled, "You really are my best bro, seriously, with friends like you, who needs enemies? You cannot even tell the difference between a polite, face-saving rejection and the actual truth. That was just an excuse, bro. You had never dated anyone. How was I supposed to know the truth? I just assumed your standards were sky high and you hated cute girls." Well, at least he finally uncovered the source of his wife's deeply flawed intel. Zach and Mia were completely to blame for this 2-year farce, but the husband realized the biggest, most glaring problem was still between Chloe and himself. They never truly talked. "But trust me, you and I know that is about to change. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a marriage that is basically running on total silence. But check this out. At her university lab, Chloe actually acts like a completely normal person. Calling her fake aloof isn't right. To everyone else, she naturally wears this impenetrable Ice Queen armor. The moment she steps into the lab, 4 terrified grad students instantly freeze at attention. They squeak out a good morning, but Chloe just gives a cold nod and demands their latest data. She stays in that room until late afternoon, painstakingly ripping apart and correcting every single mistake they made. It is not until her phone rings at 6:30 p.m. that she realizes the time. She spots her phone buzzing on the table but ignores it, keeping her hands perfectly steady on the equipment. 20 minutes later, the data is fixed, and she finally tells them they can leave. She tells them to head to the dorms, but Lily, a girl in a white lab coat, respectfully invites her for dinner. Another student, Kevin, eagerly chimes in about a new Korean barbecue place that opened across the street. It is their treat. But Chloe just packs her things and coldly tells them to go ahead. She says she just hopes the next batch of data isn't a massive disaster again, asking if they understand. The students instantly freeze up, sweating bullets as they promise to be way more careful next time. Now watch this. Under that cold face, she is actually screaming inside that she is starving to death. She is chanting Korean barbecue in her head, wishing she could grill meat for her husband instead of him being away. The students watch her walk away, and only when she is far down the hall do they dare breathe. Kevin sighs, admitting the professor is drop-dead gorgeous but way more terrifying than his own mother. Lily agrees, mentioning how insanely attractive and model-like she is, despite the scary vibe. They expected a young professor to be chill, but this woman is a literal academic demon. They wonder if she treats her husband like this, because who could survive that freezing aura? Later, Inside her friend Mia's luxury sports car, Chloe complains that their secret intel was 100% wrong. Mia mutters that if the intel is wrong, then Zack is a dead man, while aggressively changing lanes. Remembering how close she came to signing divorce papers yesterday, Chloe starts tearing up for real. She cries that she loves him, but Mia tells her she won't lose him, taking her to restock her arsenal. Mia grins deviously. Since Chloe trusts her friend blindly, she takes her promise of no divorce as absolute gospel. Now pay attention here. Because when Mia drags her right up to the neon-lit entrance of a wild adult toy boutique, her icy facade shatters completely. Inside, she is panicking, asking if they can really go in. She feels embarrassed, but Mia calmly drags her by the wrist, pointing out that her last seduction attempt was a total failure. She claims Chloe's outfits weren't wild enough, offering to be her official tactical advisor this round. They are leaving with weapons of mass seduction, and though Chloe is hesitant, her feet follow her friend's lead. Chloe did not want a divorce at all. Meanwhile, the husband faces a nightmare of business meetings with arrogant writers and stingy investors on his trip. What should have been a quick 2-day trip drags on for an entire miserable week. He literally drinks himself close to a stomach ulcer at banquets before finally securing a major production meeting. Thanks to this crazy schedule, his promised call with Chloe is delayed, but things are different this time. Usually, she would stay totally silent, but because he broke his promise, he actually calls her to apologize. He also wants to test if his telepathy works over the phone from miles away, but no luck. The mind reading clearly has a range limit. Chloe is understanding and doesn't complain, but after that call, she suddenly starts sending daily good morning texts and random updates, even though she is clearly not used to doing this. The text sounds super dry, like an official report, even asking if she is bothering his work. She offers to stop texting, but reading that, he can picture her crying internally and biting her lip. He replies that it is actually really interesting to get her texts. He tells her it makes dealing with annoying business partners much easier, and right after that, a massive flood of daily updates starts coming. And that's where we leave them, with her sending random photos of cats and lunch. Trust me, it's progress. Let's dive back in. Even after a busy week away, I felt way closer to her than when we shared that silent house. A few days later, I finally flew back, keeping my arrival a total secret from Chloe. Walking up to her lab, I saw Chloe standing inside with a face like a block of solid ice. 4 students her age stood before her, completely terrified by her oppressive aura, as she gave a final warning. If you can do this work, do it. If not, go find a new advisor immediately. If you are too scared to tell the faculty, I will do it myself right now. Her voice carried a terrifying, icy hostility I had never heard before. She always seemed cold, but her voice never had this sharp, cutting edge. Watching her through the glass in her white lab coat, radiating pure, intimidating power, I realized I might actually be into this aloof, bossy type. It was kind of hot. One student, Kevin, knew he should pay attention, but the guy standing in the hallway was just too eye-catching to ignore. Since the lab was quiet, his distraction was painfully obvious. "Kevin, what are you looking at? Is your data out there in the hallway?" she snapped, turning her head to look. This high and mighty professor, whose face was frozen and voice was spitting ice just seconds ago, now, pay attention here. The moment she saw me, absolute shock flashed in her eyes. Her mouth said nothing, but her inner mind was already hosting a wild, high-energy party. "Oh, hubby is back. Did he come to pick me up? Wait, was I too mean just now? Hubby, do not misunderstand. I am not a mean person. I am super gentle and sweet. It is all this stupid experiment's fault and these annoying, disobedient students. I haven't seen hubby for exactly 168 hours, or 10,080 minutes. I missed him so much I could die. I was completely hooked." I just nodded at her, gesturing to finish her work since I was not in a rush. With her husband watching, Chloe lost all desire to scold them, but she had to make the transition look natural. Her face remained serious, but that terrifying, oppressive aura had completely vanished into thin air. "If you make these mistakes again, do not bother coming back to this lab. Let us not waste any more time." She waved them off. The 4 students let out a collective sigh of relief and looked toward the window. They had witnessed the exact moment their scary professor caught sight of the man outside. Her entire vibe shifted from demon lord to normal human instantly. I did not mind their staring, and just smiled. Chloe coughed to assert her dominance. "What? Do you want to stay and do more experiments? No? Then leave." Taking off her coat, Lily gathered the courage to ask if the man outside was her husband. Chloe, who was secretly humming happily inside her mind about her hubby picking her up, paused. Thinking she was winning at life, she gave a cool, aristocratic nod, while launching absolute fireworks in her head. She had been wishing on stars for him to return, and now her handsome husband was right there. You and I both know she is screaming inside, but she kept a flawless, calm face to dismiss them. She stepped out of the lab and stopped right in front of me, offering a polite smile. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I did not know you were coming today. Are you here to see my parents?" I gently reached out, and brushed some imaginary lint off her glasses, saying I came to get her for dinner. When my hand brushed against her cheek, Chloe felt her heart stop completely, frozen in place. Her chaotic monologue went dead silent. I whispered about the lint, but her heart was already racing out of control. Oh no. Just one little touch, and I am falling in love with him all over again. This makes the 998th time I have fallen for Liam. When will he ever feel the same? But this thought felt different from her usual hyper rants, carrying a heavy trace of sadness and deep longing. My chest tightened. Maybe I really needed to understand her, instead of just treating her like a cute roommate. We walked shoulder to shoulder down the quiet, tree-lined campus path. Well, quiet on the outside, but inside her head was a wild, one-woman comedy show. She talked a mile a minute inside, dropping incredibly wild, flirtatious one-liners. Hearing her debate whether to seduce me tonight in some wild outfit she bought, I could not help but glance at her. Looking at her beautiful face erased my exhaustion. Honestly, we both know they are perfect together. Let's jump into things as our main character asks his wife what she wants for dinner. She was literally just daydreaming about showing off her wifely cooking skills, but she just shrugs with a cold nod. She says whatever, but internally she is panicking, screaming that she definitely does not want just random whatever. She regrets acting so distant and instantly starts chanting Korean barbecue, over and over in her head. As she prays for telepathy, he chuckles because her mental broadcast is coming in loud and clear. He smoothly suggests Korean barbecue, and while she tries to act cool, her voice squeaks with pure excitement. In her mind, she is celebrating their soulmate status, wanting to kiss her husband right there on the street. Her happiness is contagious, but since things are still a bit quiet, he asks if her students upset her today. Her happy mental humming stops as she admits she is frustrated over a failed experiment. She practically held their hands through the entire process without physically doing the work herself. But they doubted a key step, ruined the entire dataset, and forgot that science requires actually verifying your doubts. They stubbornly thought they knew better, and refused to listen, and she becomes dead serious when discussing her actual research. With furrowed brows, she explains this happens constantly, even though she has proven them wrong time and time again. Watch closely here, because she suddenly panics that her husband thinks she is scary when she gets mad. She tries to reassure him she is actually very gentle and comes from a family of brilliant researchers. She suddenly lowers her voice and apologizes, asking if all this talk is too boring for him to hear. Her life is just research, data, and her husband, making her think she is incredibly dull. She starts thinking that no wonder he does not like her, but he quickly and earnestly speaks up to comfort her. He tells her he actually finds it fascinating and loves learning about new topics, especially when it is something she is so passionate about. Her eyes light up instantly, feeling understood for the first time. He realizes his past neglect and refusal to truly pay attention to her had caused all of their stupid misunderstandings. They arrive at a popular Korean barbecue restaurant, and she finally relaxes thanks to his sweet words. She orders quickly, and when the fresh meat arrives, the helpful waiter offers to grill it for them. She rejects the waiter, proudly declaring she wants to cook for her husband since she saw other people doing it last time. She wants her husband to have the absolute best treatment and be treated like a literal king. He is baffled by her backward logic, wondering why she is the one grilling instead of him showing off. Her brain clearly operates on a completely different frequency. But pay attention, because we are about to see her hilarious kitchen skills fail completely. The moment she accidentally burns her delicate fingers on the hot plate, she gasps, and he grabs her hand. An angry red burn quickly appears on her pale skin, and it looks incredibly painful. She is crying internally, but the second he holds her hand, her mind completely resets to pure romantic panic. She wishes he would kiss it better, making him feel totally helpless as he listens to her hilarious inner thoughts. Kissing her hand in public is definitely out of the question right now. He gently blows on her hand, looking up to ask the shocked girl if it hurts. He offers to find her some burn ointment, and staring into his warm, caring eyes, she completely forgets her frosty ice queen persona. She stutters that she is fine, but the angry red welt stands out sharply against her pale skin. He hates seeing her hurt, but she gently pulls her hand back from his grip. She is not rejecting him. She is just incredibly shy under his intense stare as her knees go weak. Even though her inner thoughts are wild and bold, she is incredibly shy and sensitive in reality. Seeing her adorable awkwardness, he slowly lets go, though his eyes remain glued to her injured hand. He rings the service bell, and since burns are common here, the restaurant actually has some ointment on hand. She quickly applies it herself, and when the waiter offers to help again, she is too embarrassed to refuse. Her plans to show off her wifely skills completely backfired, but he calmly waves the waiter away. He grabs the tongs himself, telling the waiter he will handle the grilling from here. And that's where we leave them with her staring in awe as he shows her how to grill. You and I are about to dive into the story of when I was a completely broke college student working at a barbecue joint. Was that when Professors Lin and Zhang tried to cut you off to force you into a science major? I remember it so well. Back in my freshman year, during the second semester, I used to post some really angsty, depressed stuff on social media. A classmate even left a comment telling me to just go home and apologize to my mom and dad. I told them I would not starve, and there was no way I was going back to boring academic research. Later, Chloe learned from mutual friends that my family cut me off because they absolutely hated me studying finance. They claimed a normal family had no use for it. How do you know about that? I was genuinely shocked. That literally happened during my freshman year. Almost nobody knew about that short phase of my life. How did she find out? Suddenly, Chloe looked completely panicked. She had let her guard down and slipped up. She almost blamed Zach, but looking straight into my eyes, she went totally silent. Finally, she whispered, I secretly followed your social media back then, but I was just a freshman. Aren't you younger than me? Weren't you in high school? Now, pay attention here. Because this was my perfect chance to finally clear the air. I softened my voice to guide her gently. So, we actually knew each other back then? Instantly, Chloe's face flushed red. Her burned hand was still throbbing with heat, even though the medicine was on. Her mind started racing with a million different thoughts. She could solve advanced physics equations without a single second of hesitation, but in the messy world of love, she was always second-guessing herself. She hated acting cold all the time and wanted to show her true feelings, but she was terrified of rejection. I did not rush her at all. I could literally hear her inner thoughts and sense her deep-seated fear. Honestly, I was blown away. This girl loved me so deeply. But I had to wonder, when did we actually meet for the first time? If our first meeting was just those blind dates, her long-term crush timeline made absolutely no sense. When you were a freshman, I had already left the country to study abroad as a sophomore. Even knowing my wife was a certified genius, I was completely stunned. Chloe glanced up at me. Seeing how shocked I was, she quickly said, You are amazing too. Way more incredible than I ever imagined. Internally, she was absolutely thrilled to be praised by her husband. Gaining confidence from the praise, she finally gathered her courage and blurted it out. The truth is, we met before I moved abroad. Back then, you thought I was a lost little kid and dragged me straight to the police station. I stared at her in complete and utter confusion. Wait, did that actually happen? Chloe looked super embarrassed, but she kept going. I was a very late bloomer. Even though I was in middle school, I had not hit my growth spurt yet. Honestly, I could not remember this random childhood act of kindness at all. I mean, how could anyone remember a tiny detail like that years down the road? Realizing I drew a blank, Chloe looked super disappointed, but she quickly started filling in the details. That year, the middle school classes had to move to the high school because a building collapsed. Okay, I did remember a building collapsing. But looking at this absolutely gorgeous, successful woman standing right in front of me, I could not picture her as a tiny, lost kid. Just how small was she? Reading my expression, Chloe blushed incredibly hard. I skipped several grades and was not fully developed yet, but I was definitely a bit bigger than an elementary school kid. So you were not entirely wrong. I couldn't help but laugh. You must have been a really adorable little kid back then. Chloe froze, staring at me blankly as I smiled. I always really wanted a cute younger sister back then. If I went out of my way to take you to the police, you must have been adorable. Otherwise, I would not have played hero. Looking at Chloe, I smiled warmly. I can definitely tell you were an incredibly cute kid back in those days. You are gorgeous now, so you must have been adorable then. In her mind, she screamed, I want to be your wife, not your sister. I want to have your babies. Meanwhile, I quickly added that I was just making a comparison. I did not actually want a sister. I corrected myself. Seeing her blushing so furiously right in front of me, I suddenly realized this was actually pretty amazing. Just like that, it hit me. The legendary first love my wife had cherished for all these years was actually me. Right now, Chloe was absolutely dying of embarrassment over her massive confession. Calling me her white moonlight was not totally accurate, but technically, I was her one and only. I looked down, terrified that if I kept staring at her cute, nervous face, I might completely lose control. I leaned forward and poured her some warm barley tea. Even past the curtain, we could hear the busy crowd outside. But the only thing I could hear was her racing heart and her echoing thought. I have only ever loved Liam. I have only ever liked you. Trust me, you are going to want to hear what she says next. Alright, you and I are diving into a romance where our female lead is literally begging her husband not to leave over a huge misunderstanding. So now that the truth is out, is he willing to give their marriage a second chance? The husband looks at her, his mood instantly lifting, while Chloe desperately tries to play it cool despite her racing heart. She decides they should start fresh today, thinking to herself that she finally gets to actually date her own husband. Even if they're already married, who cares? She is absolutely bursting with pure excitement. He can hear every single one of her adorable thoughts, even though her pretty face remains completely expressionless. So he drops a bomb. Her friend's intel was totally wrong. He doesn't actually like cold, intellectual women at all. Chloe's eyes snap wide open. He knew this entire time, meaning she was acting fake for absolutely nothing? Her voice shakes as she asks what he actually likes. He smiles, realizing he finally figured out his true preference. He tells her to just be herself, since they have their entire lives ahead of them to figure it out. On the drive home, only one horrifying realization keeps repeating in her head: her husband knows. Pay attention here because she realizes her husband saw right through her cold act. But hey, she still got him in the end. He can't stop smiling. Just being around her completely melts away all his stress and exhaustion. He's genuinely excited to see what her real personality looks like without that fake ice queen barrier. But as they get back home and he heads to his room, she suddenly stops him. She quietly explains that she wasn't entirely faking her behavior. She really is professional around her students, but around loved ones, she can get pretty loud and clingy. She was just terrified he would hate that side of her. He just smiles, asking how she'd ever know without trying. She looks at him for a moment before letting out a relieved, happy grin. She promises to try, feeling completely shocked. The next morning, he wakes up to a massive breakfast spread and a sweet note. She had early classes, so she left him a cute morning message. She told him to reheat it if it got cold. After eating, he heads out to work. Right in the middle of a busy workday, Chloe calls to say she made lunch. Before long, she walks into his office, carrying a beautiful bento box. Her face is literally glowing with pure, unfiltered happiness. She usually plays it cool in front of others, but right now, she looks so cute and eager to please. They sit down side by side to eat. Looking at the amazing spread of food, he asks when she became such an incredible cook. Since they were always so busy, they rarely cooked at home before. Chloe smiles with pride. She explains that she studied abroad very young, forcing her to learn. Once she grew up, her mother moved back to China, leaving her independent. He realizes that ever since they cleared the air, she finally let her guard down completely. Let's pause for a second. She's usually an ice queen, but right now, she has the heart of a young, totally smitten schoolgirl. Their lunch date takes a while, but it is totally worth it. He finally feels like he truly understands her. When it's time to go, she starts internally whining about wanting to stay. She wishes she could stay in his office forever while packing up, but as he helps her, their hands suddenly brush. She completely freezes, looks up at him, and whispers that she's shy. He just blinks and bursts out laughing. Thrilled at being called cute, she bites her lip to hide a massive grin, her face blushing redder by the second. He raises an eyebrow, noting he called her wifey. So shouldn't she return the favor and call him hubby? She gently chews on her lower lip, twisting her fingers in sheer embarrassment while staying completely silent. He is in no rush, turning to grab the burn ointment he bought for her earlier that morning. Asking if she applied it last night, he decides not to push the husband nickname just yet. Chloe feels relieved, but secretly disappointed. She has screamed that word a million times in her head, but saying it out loud is terrifying. She whispers that she did, looking down at her slightly injured hand. He walks over with the tube, noticing how stark the red burn looks against her pale skin. He tells her she needs to protect her hands for her lab experiments, setting the medicine down right in front of her. To his surprise, she simply blinks before bravely offering her right hand straight to him. She claims her other hand is way too clumsy and asks him to apply it. He desperately wants to remind her she managed perfectly fine on her own last night, but he gently takes her soft hand anyway. And that's where we leave them, with her staring like a puppy while thinking about how hot her hubby's hands are. Alright, you and I are diving right back into the hilarious mind-reading chaos of this relationship. Applying this ointment was a total roller coaster. On the outside, she looked completely calm and stoic. But inside, her brain was screaming about dragging me to a private beach and having me rub lotion on her. By the time I finished, her face was totally flushed, but thankfully, her hand did not blister from yesterday. I gently lifted her hand and blew on it. The cool breeze on her skin made Chloe freeze up completely. Her chaotic mental screaming went dead silent, and she just stared at me, completely dazed. I quickly let go and apologized. She looked visibly disappointed, though she claimed it was fine. I stood up to walk her out and grabbed her lunch bag, explaining I could not drive her because of a meeting. She walked right beside me, and for once, her chaotic inner monologue was actually quiet. My startup was still growing, and at this hour, most people should have been napping. The office was quiet. But pay close attention here, because the moment we stepped out, the entire bullpen was packed. I was absolutely speechless. Chloe was completely startled as dozens of heads suddenly turned to look at us. Her inner thoughts immediately kicked back on. Are they staring? Do we look good together? If I knew we had an audience, I would have worn a cuter outfit. Tactical error, but I will get it right next time. Hubby won't mind if I visit more often, right? Since he did not say no, it is officially decided. I looked at her directing a whole movie in her head and just smiled. Let's go. Ignore them. They're probably just curious about my wife. I gently guided her out, keeping my hand near her shoulder to avoid her ticklish waist. But Chloe had other plans. She paused, took a tiny step back, and deliberately bumped right into my chest. I felt a rush of warmth. She was internally screaming. We hugged. Why is my husband such a perfect gentleman? But that is fine, I will make the first move. Does he have nice abs under there? I wonder when he will let me touch them. To stop her escalating thirst, I quickly steered her out the door. I asked if she drove, and she confirmed she did and would head back alone. As her car drives away, you and I are switching gears because Chloe goes straight to her best friend, Mia. She whined about buying cute combat gear but not getting to use it, desperately needing her romantic tactician. Mia, a rich girl turned beauty influencer, was casually sipping tea at her favorite luxury cafe. When Chloe walked in, the barista greeted her warmly. She smiled and headed over to Mia's table. Mia waved, asking where she came from, and Chloe instantly bragged about having a lunch date with her lovely hubby. She turned down coffee, bragging that her husband just made her tea. Mia stared at her, deadpan. Mia sighed, pointing out that she only knew that because Chloe literally just blurted it out to flex. Staring at Chloe's radiant face, Mia could not understand how Liam endured 2 years of marriage without claiming his stunning, naive wife. She made a mental note to ask Zach about it. While back in my office, I aggressively sneezed 3 times. I grumbled, wondering why my employees were still cursing me after I bought them tea. These kids are getting out of hand. Mia stared silently at the excited Chloe before finally speaking. Are you telling me you have been married for 2 years and you are still doing this high school crush routine? You guys haven't even held hands properly. If all else fails, you just need to sleep together first. Chloe was slightly swayed, admitting she thought about it too, but she believed Liam was just respecting their relationship. Mia slammed the table, yelling that looking at her every day and doing nothing was not about respect. She asked if he was impotent, pointing out Chloe has the face, body, and brains. Well, scratch the brains part. You lose all your IQ around him. You are the perfect wife, and he is playing pure love. Mia declared that if she had a gorgeous, hopelessly in love wife like Chloe, she would lock her up all day. Chloe snapped, telling her to stop saying that. Mia immediately apologized, admitting her big mouth has absolutely no filter. She knew exactly how fiercely protective Chloe was when it came to Liam. Mia shoved her phone forward, offering to show Chloe some highly educational, adult videos instead. She suggested just jumping his bones. Chloe was completely shocked, wondering if her friend had officially lost her mind. She is 26 and knows basic biology, but trust me, you and I both know she is too chicken to actually do it. Alright, you and I are about to watch a romance that starts with this blushing girl. She needs a good excuse because she can't just throw these moves out of nowhere. Mia stares at her blushing friend, wondering if she'll ever take charge. She sighs, it is June. Summer break starts next month, so just say you are celebrating that. Mia is completely out of ideas. Chloe's birthday is in September. Liam's is in March. Finding an excuse is hard, so she shakes her head. March is too far away. Her friend sighs and suggests she just get drunk and stumble into his bedroom. Problem solved. Chloe just stares with those massive, innocent eyes, making her friend stare back. Losing the staring contest, she looks away and sighs. Fine, what do you actually want to do then? Meanwhile, our male lead works super late, grabs quick takeout with his team, and does not finish until past 8 p.m. Even though the office is packed with people working overtime, he decides not to stay for once. Now, watch closely. Thinking of Chloe and her cute bento box, he actually decides to call it a night. Sitting in his car, he hesitates before calling. She answers instantly, her voice filled with pure, cheerful energy. He asks if she wants late-night snacks, smiling without even realizing it, and Chloe hesitates before whispering back. She admits she is not that hungry yet since it is early, fearing a rejection means losing her chance tonight. He freezes, but quickly tells her it is fine, saying he will head home first so they can go out later. She happily agrees to wait at home, and hearing those sweet words makes him melt inside. His mood completely skyrockets, and looking in the mirror, he catches himself grinning like an absolute idiot. He gets home shortly after, and opening the front door, he sees Chloe literally bounce off the couch with a beautiful smile. She welcomes him home, and he softly replies that he is back. Chloe trots right over, smelling like sweet flowers, and looks up with sparkling eyes to ask if he wants to shower first. Suddenly, her inner voice pipes up, wondering if her husband likes this sweet, innocent girl next door vibe. He has to suppress a laugh, realizing he never actually knew what his ideal type was before today. Hearing her cute thoughts while she sneaks glances makes his lips curl up into a genuine smile. Even all the way upstairs, he can hear her inner voice screaming like a happy kid who just won the absolute lottery. He changes into a simple t-shirt and jeans, only to find she has changed her outfit as well. I know what you're thinking, matching black and white shirts? They look like a real couple now. He raises an eyebrow with a smile, asking what she wants, and she suggests a kanji place nearby. Listening to her, He realizes there are so many shops nearby that he never even noticed before. Chloe sounds like a regular, so he asks if she eats late-night snacks often. She explains she usually goes when she finishes lab work late, while the soft evening breeze gently rustles her hair. Walking shoulder to shoulder down the summer streets, the weather is perfect, the stars are out, and spirits are high. This sparks a memory of when they first married, and she tentatively asked him to grab late-night food. Back then, he was always too busy and didn't eat late, so he politely declined. He cannot even remember her expression because he probably did not even look at her properly. So, after being rejected, she had to go eat all by herself. Thinking of this, he cannot help but look at her. Noticing his silence, she turns and catches his gaze, pausing to touch her own cheek in confusion. She asks if something is on her face. He just smiles and asks if anyone has told her how pretty she is, turning her into a literal steam engine. Within seconds, her face turns bright red, her eyes dart around, and she starts stuttering completely. Her brain is a total mess now. Whenever they make eye contact, she completely loses control of her words. She blurts out, asking to hold his hand since she is so pretty, calling it a good deal. Her voice fades as her inner self screams in pure regret, but he just laughs and gently grabs her delicate hand. He does not have much experience with girls and worries about moving too fast and scaring her away. He tells her to just ask directly. Meanwhile, the girl who is mentally kicking herself for her word vomit suddenly feels his warm hand. Looking like she is about to spontaneously combust, she just gives a cute, soft humph in response. And trust me, you and I know she did not hear a word, but her tiny hand is already holding tight. All right, you and I are watching this incredibly cute moment. Her fingers slowly shimmied between mine until our hands were completely locked together in a sweet, tight grip. Then, she gave our joined hands a happy little swing, tilted her head, and flashed me a soft smile. I couldn't help but smile back. Clearly, she was too busy blushing to remember my advice about being direct, but as soon as we sat down at the kanji shop, she dropped an absolute bomb, saying she was just going to tell me what she wanted. I nodded, completely off guard. She went on, saying her parents told us to hurry up and make a baby. She stared straight at me while I sat there completely speechless. Talk about being direct, that was a literal tactical nuke. Going straight to making babies was wild. I could see the massive gap between us. Chloe was just so incredibly pure and innocent. She was raised in a sheltered bubble, which was worlds away from my cutthroat business environment. Seeing my shocked face, she panicked, asking if that was too direct or if we even needed any build-up. Did you forget we are having dinner at my parents' house tomorrow? Now pay attention, because even though we had a terrible relationship for 2 years, we still visited my parents monthly, and she actually remembered my schedule. I was surprised she knew my schedule. With joy in her voice, she said she would wait at home. She just wanted to warn me they might bring up the baby talk again. To her, me remembering her schedule meant I cared, and caring meant she was in my heart, which meant I must finally like her. She mentally blamed herself for not being persuasive, thinking she warned me early so I could prepare for the pressure. I used to use being busy as an excuse, but they won't buy it now. Otherwise, how will she climb into my bed? That was her only logical excuse. Hearing her thoughts, all my initial feelings of guilt instantly vanished, replaced by pure amusement. I looked up at her. She was staring right back eagerly, completely failing to hide her deep infatuation with me. When she caught me looking, she blushed deeply and quickly turned away. I scooped some kanji into her bowl and told her that if my parents bring it up, she should just tell them I am the one delaying kids. She froze, stammering that she did not mind because my parents are reasonable. In her mind, she was screaming about how else she could sleep in my bed after 2 years of marriage. Hearing that, it was my turn to freeze. My mood suddenly took a very delightful turn. I casually asked her about living alone while studying abroad. I asked if she always valued her personal space. She explained her mom lived with her for a bit when she was younger. She got her own room later. In her mind, she wondered why I was asking this, fearing she was overthinking again. She valued her space but did not dare say it. If she did, maybe there was a 1% chance I would invite her into my room. She told herself to dream big, because I was being so incredibly gentle with her tonight. You and I both know her inner thoughts are absolute gold. I had to hold back my laughter while she mentally debated which pajamas to wear. How did a respectable college professor have such a wild, dirty mind? I decided to ask her slowly. Stop fantasizing. I am officially inviting you to move in. Her hyperactive inner voice slammed the brakes. Her huge eyes went completely round, staring as if I had grown a second head. I quickly added, I was just asking for her opinion. I said it was fine if she did not want to. But before I could finish, she cut me off with a yes. She immediately slapped a hand over her mouth, looking down in pure embarrassment as she stammered to explain. Since we have been married for 2 years and want to grow closer, moving in together just makes perfect sense, right? She shot me a nervous glance. I absolutely loved these tiny expressions, like a stray kitten cautiously testing its boundaries. Her loud mental screaming was intense, so I added, do not worry. Until we are ready, I will not do anything to you." The screaming stopped instantly. Why would he not do anything to me? She wondered if she was not sexy enough. Thinking she was actually afraid I would not do anything at all, she decided to get in the room first and plan her outfits later, mentally listing different tights. I pushed a side dish toward her to stop her unholy train of thought, urging her to eat her congee before it got cold. I told her we would handle the move tomorrow after visiting my parents. Mentally, she was ready to pack right now. She was ready to check in tonight, but outwardly, she just gave me a modest, sweet nod. She claimed her schedule was flexible. Smiling, I told her to eat, and after our congee, we strolled back home. It was still early as we chatted aimlessly, watching the cars drive by. As she said goodnight at her door, I realized our normal chats were already natural. Trust me, you and I are going to love seeing where this goes. Let's dive into this crazy cute story where our female lead is internally begging her husband to let her move in. She literally wants him to drag her inside, but he just smiles, keeping his cool, and says goodnight. He needs time to process getting a roommate. The next day is crazy busy, but he makes sure to leave work right on time. He even buys a massive bouquet of red roses on his way. Chloe is already fully dressed and waiting. Handing her the flowers, she assumes they are for his mom. He explains that he knows she prefers tulips, but they were completely sold out. "These roses are just for you," he says. Looking at him, her face lights up with absolute, pure happiness. "For me?" she asks. His heart aches seeing how shocked she is. "Yes, they are yours. Do you like them?" She instantly shouts that she absolutely loves them. It is the very first time her husband has bought her flowers. She wants to preserve them in her lab to turn them into eternal flowers. He smiles and promises to buy her flowers every single day. She says that is a waste, and asks for a weekly bouquet instead, showing zero hesitation or shyness. She stares with bright, expectant eyes, telling him that his flowers keep her happy for a whole week, or maybe even longer. Now pay attention because this sweet confession completely catches him off guard and melts his heart. He promises to personally pick them next time, making her incredibly excited for the happy days ahead. His chest tightens. It feels exactly like the electric rush of seeing her for the very first time. He finally understands how someone can fall in love with the exact same person over and over again. Staring at her face, which looks prettier than any rose, he smiles and asks if Professor Joe is ready to go home. Chloe feels totally overwhelmed by this. Everyone calls her Professor Joe, but hearing it from him sounds incredibly intimate and flirty. "Yes, let me put these flowers away first." Blushing deeply, she runs inside to place them on the table, thinking this is the 999th time she has fallen for him. She hopes her dream comes true soon, which is the most genuine thought he has ever heard from her. It is far from her usual wild mental chatter. He wonders how deep her love runs to count every single moment. His own chest is pounding. He tells her they should go so they do not keep his parents waiting. She practically skips back to him. He holds out his hand with a soft smile and asks if they can hold hands. She freezes, stares at his open palm, and then grabs it tightly without wasting a single second. I know what you are thinking, but she does not need grand gestures, just simple physical contact. Holding hands makes her absolutely ecstatic. The drive to his parents' house takes about 30 minutes. Walking inside, hand in hand, his mom is watering plants. She looks up and jokingly calls him the young master. Her eyes lock onto their hands. Dropping the watering can, she happily calls Chloe over, asking if she has lost weight. Chloe greets her sweetly, secretly crying inside, because she has to let go of his hand. He complains about the clear favoritism, pointing out how sweetly she greets Chloe while calling him young master. That casual use of her name makes her blush, shooting him a shy look as he glances back. The contrast in her reaction is hilarious. Meanwhile, his mother is absolutely thrilled to see them flirting. She finds her son slightly more tolerable today, grabbing their hands and worrying that Chloe looks too pale. She tells him to go help his dad cook. Chloe quickly offers to help, noting that he just finished work. Internally, she is worried about her husband having to cook after a long day, though she secretly wants to taste his food. He realizes his mom is just trying to get rid of him. He has literally never cooked at this house. He agrees to go cook so the ladies can relax, while she mentally cheers that her husband is going to cook. She decides she will give him a massage tonight, pushing aside any worries about him saying no for later. Hearing the promise of a massage, he happily marches into the kitchen, where his father hears him coming. His dad teases him, but when Chloe pokes her head in to say thank you, his expression softens instantly. He tells her to go relax in the living room, having prepared her favorite garlic mushrooms. Watching them, it took him 2 whole years to realize that his wife is way more popular here. Once she leaves, his dad nudges him, teasingly asking what he is staring at, since they are acting exactly like a pair of lovebird newlyweds. Well, we basically are newlyweds, he thinks, before asking if his dad needs help. His dad asks how things are going with Chloe. He says pretty good while tossing a mushroom. Trust me, you and I will definitely see more of this sweet couple. Let's dive in as dad frowns and asks about that mysterious jade pendant. Sensing something weird, I admitted I only take it off to sleep. Dad, you're a professor. Why so superstitious? Looking relieved, Dad scoffed that he had to pull serious strings to get that precious item. He urged me to keep wearing it for both our sakes, then asked if anything weird happened. An unusual pendant? Does it have radiation? I almost laughed it off until a sudden thought hit me. I started hearing Chloe's inner thoughts right after wearing this. Could it be actual magic? Testing the waters. I quietly mentioned that lately, I've been feeling weird, like I'm hearing voices. Dad kept stir-frying, his face totally blank as he just told me to rest and see a doctor. Maybe I was just overthinking things. It seemed he knew nothing. Soon, a peaceful dinner got underway. The vibe was perfect, until Professor Lin suddenly dropped a massive bomb right at the table. As I served Chloe some food, she blushed. Hearing her happy inner thoughts was honestly so entertaining. Watch closely as she drops the ultimate question, when are they going to have a baby? She pointed out that while my sister barely sees her husband, Chloe and I are together every single day. Chloe quickly tried to cover for me, blaming her busy schedule, but Mom cut her off immediately. Mom threatened to check her university schedule. I sighed, arguing we were both just way too busy. Mom pressed on. Meanwhile, Chloe was mentally screaming, asking if I wanted a baby because she was totally ready. I threw a smirk at Chloe, who was absolutely losing her mind internally. Outwardly, Professor Joe looked completely calm and innocent. I smiled and told them not to rush us. I suggested letting nature take its course, while she mentally cheered that she was totally down for it. She even thought about using some special gear tonight. After some quick television with our parents, we finally headed home. During the drive, I waited for her to mention the massage, but she kept completely silent. Once home, I dramatically stretched out my shoulders. That hint had to be obvious enough. Chloe took the bait, hesitantly offering to try some massage techniques she learned from other teachers. She claimed it was highly effective, while secretly begging me to say yes so she wouldn't feel sad. She thought they were the perfect match, begging for a real chance to show off her skills. Amused by her hilarious inner whining, I agreed and casually used her first name, making her eyes widen instantly. You and I can see she's completely melting inside, her thoughts running absolutely wild as her face turns bright red. Finally, unable to handle it, she stammered that she would find me in a bit, then awkwardly bolted upstairs. I immediately regretted teasing her since she was just too shy. What if she bailed? But an hour later, there was a knock. Smiling, I walked over to open the door. The moment I opened it, I froze. She was standing there in a short white silk slip dress. Her long, slender legs made it impossible to look away, and I was deeply envious of that beautiful black hair. Softly announcing she was here for the massage, she shook the oil. I thought she was here for my life. I wanted to pull her inside instantly. Meanwhile, she nervously adjusted her dress, wondering if I actually liked it. She kept panicking inside, wondering why I wasn't moving, while her poor heart hammered incredibly fast. I quickly invited her inside, asking if she preferred her room, even though I already knew she definitely wanted to stay right here. Chloe marched right in, claiming my room was better since it actually had a bed. I noticed her blushing face, but stayed quiet, simply shutting the bedroom door behind her without locking it. Once the door clicked shut, her wild inner broadcast asked if I was about to do naughty things. She secretly thought she was ready, hoping I would plant some nice hickeys on her like sweet strawberries tonight. Reading her thoughts about hickeys made me cover my mouth to hide a massive grin. Her eyes darted around the room, excitedly realizing that this place would soon be hers too. She wondered when I would finally ask her to move in, all while maintaining a remarkably blank expression. She told me to take off my shirt, secretly hoping to see if my abs were as good as she remembered. And that's where we leave it as he takes his shirt off. Things are getting wild. All right, you and I are about to watch a top-tier romance unfold. My gym sessions paid off, and as my shirt came off, Chloe absolutely lost it internally. Worried her loud thoughts would ruin the massage, I slipped off my jade pendant. Just like that, absolute silence. Coincidence? I stared at the charm, put it back on, but still, nothing, not a single peep from her mind. Chloe caught me staring and asked what was wrong. Nothing, I lied. Was it really just random? I set the pendant aside and lay down. Dad did mention today that this relic was good for us, which honestly felt super suspicious. But testing that had to wait. Out of nowhere, warm, oiled hands pressed softly onto my shoulders, sending shivers straight down my spine. My body instantly locked up. It felt like someone had gently grabbed me by the neck. Sensing my tension, Chloe whispered to just relax and trust her skills. She mentioned practicing on her mom. Gone was her usual cold attitude, replaced by a soft, sultry tone, but I still couldn't read her mind. I eyed the jewelry on the nightstand. If it wouldn't look completely bizarre, I would have put it back on to test it. I let out a sigh, relaxed, and peeked up at Chloe leaning over me. And trust me, this angle was a major problem. The view was way too distracting. I wanted to turn away, but lying flat made shifting impossible. Pressing down harder, she leaned in even closer. She was incredibly focused, And even though her face was blushing red, her hands remained perfectly steady. In fact, she was so locked in that she completely lost track of our physical distance. She was basically kneeling on the mattress now, asking if the pressure was all right. Deep down, she secretly hoped I would fall head over heels for her hidden talents. Her original plan to seduce me was totally forgotten. Let's dive into a story where unintentional seduction might actually be the most dangerous thing in the world. I could not help but stare as she kneeled there, her fair skin contrasting beautifully against my dark blue sheets. I muttered that it was perfect, then she leaned closer. Suddenly, lying flat became super awkward because something important was getting totally squished. I tried to move, but her gentle hands slid down my spine, sending wild electric sparks straight to my lower back while she joked about my desk job. She asked if I was stiff, but come on, what guy is ever going to admit his back is weak? Now pay attention, because the moment I rolled over, my lips brushed against something surprisingly soft. She instantly froze up right above me, then sprang back like a terrified cat. Chloe quickly covered herself, her wide eyes filled with sheer panic and deep shame as her face turned bright red. I sat there completely dazed, trying to process the kiss, before stammering out a really clumsy apology for not paying attention. It was a terrible excuse, and with my own face burning, I scrambled to sit up. I quickly grabbed a pillow to cover myself, but you and I both know she immediately noticed my obvious reaction, making me die inside. I muttered an apology about biology, hoping she would not hate me. I kept my gaze locked on her face, completely terrified to look down during this painful silence. Chloe just sat there blushing, her hands over her chest, but she was not clueless about what my body was doing. She gulped, suddenly remembering an old saying about how fortune only favors those brave enough to take action. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she nervously bit her pink lip. Though she was burning up, she looked up to break the silence, reminding me that since we are married, physical touch is just part of trying. I was far too flustered to understand her logic, but she did not give me a second to process it. Taking a deep breath, she reached out, grabbed my shoulders, and filled the air with her sweet floral perfume. She suddenly lunged forward, and as I instinctively grabbed her, I could only think about how tiny her waist felt. Her soft lips landed on the corner of my mouth because of her nerves, and you and I know this stubborn girl is not stopping. All right, you and I are diving into the most chaotic first kiss ever. The air completely vanished. Breathing got tough. This was Chloe's very first kiss, and she realized books did not describe it right. Her heart was racing, and our lips tasted sweet like honey. She finally got why people love kissing. It was only when I gently squeezed her waist that a tiny gasp escaped her sealed lips. Then she tried to push me away, her oil-slicked hands slipping against my skin. I let her go, and Chloe immediately gasped for air. Her face flushed completely red. I chuckled, softly asking how she could forget to breathe during a kiss. Chloe got totally defensive, muttering that it was her first time and she would improve next try. All right, you and I are about to see her teary, flushed red eyes looking incredibly seductive, yet totally helpless. Unable to take her intense gaze, I reached out and covered her tiny, delicate face. Her swollen red lips stood out beautifully with her eyes covered. If a kiss is all you want tonight, please stop looking at me like that. I am no saint, I sighed, feeling totally helpless because of how highly she regarded me. Honestly, I felt quite guilty. If I were 18, I would just go for it and worry about the rest later. But at 28, I had to think of the consequences and give her a chance to back out of this pure love. Her long eyelashes brushed my hand, and her gorgeous lips parted as she whispered, "Liam, I really like you. I have liked you for the longest time, ever since our very first meeting." Her skin felt incredibly warm. I stood frozen, but my touch softened over her eyes. It seemed this physical barrier actually gave her courage. Our shy female lead was finally speaking out loud, admitting she had no idea how to date, since she had never tried. My life is completely boring and routine, but you are my only exception. Now, watch closely. Here she confesses she is absolutely terrified of actually getting together with him, even though she has plenty of bold ideas. Can we take it slow? I am a bit scared. Her voice shook with vulnerability. She thought crossing this line would be amazing, but the kiss made her fear the unknown. I gently stroked her hair. It is all right. No need to rush. We will go slow. You do not have to fear. Eventually, Chloe got too embarrassed. She covered her blushing face, squeaked a quick goodnight, and bolted out. I felt totally frustrated that her inner thoughts had suddenly gone quiet. Hearing her frantic inner thoughts as she ran off would have been hilarious, but my mysterious mind-reading powers were still completely fading. The moment Chloe left, the romantic tension evaporated. I sat alone, still feeling the sticky massage oil on my skin. Eventually, I headed back to the shower, while Chloe immediately started regretting her dramatic escape in her own room. Staring at her teary eyes and red nose in the mirror, she touched her swollen lips, still tasting him on them. "You are so useless, Chloe. You were literally right there kissing him. Why did you have to chicken out?" But remembering Liam's sweet words brought a smile back to her face. My husband is just so gentle. This next part takes us back to how things got so chaotic. Let's pause for a second because we need to see how this crazy mind-reading journey actually started. As Liam stands in the shower, he flashes back to the absolute absurdity of how this entire marriage dynamic began. On our way to file for divorce, I suddenly realized I could actually hear my wife's private thoughts. My cold, totally expressionless, Ice Queen wife was staring at me with nothing but pure annoyance on her face. But inside her mind, her true voice was screaming, "Dearest husband, I do not want this divorce. What if I pretend my stomach hurts? Will that work? Please do not leave me. A beautiful, fair-skinned girl with long legs like me? If someone else sweeps me off the street, they are absolutely never returning me to you." And then I remembered tonight, with Chloe standing at my door in that revealing outfit she bought a few days ago. I wonder if my husband likes this. Why is he not moving? Is he not letting me inside? My poor heart is beating so fast. Honey, open up. Do you want a wife or not? She is right here. Let her in. I could not help but laugh and step aside, asking her if she wanted to come in or go to her room. The next morning, after studying her mysterious jade pendant all night without luck, I walked out to the living room. A gorgeous breakfast was waiting on the table, but Chloe was gone, leaving a sweet note saying, "Good morning, husband. I went to the university early. I do not have classes, but I am just too embarrassed to face you right now." Staring at her neat handwriting, I easily pictured her blushing, shy, yet totally stubborn expression. After eating the delicious breakfast my wife made, I pocketed the note and headed out to work feeling incredibly happy. At work, my assistant, Leo, offered me breakfast. I told him to eat it because I already ate at home, leaving him totally confused. He praised me for waking up early to cook. Honestly, I usually thought my assistant was a pretty smart guy. Why was he being so clueless today? I smiled proudly, telling him my wife made it, before asking for today's schedule. I walked away, leaving Leo completely stunned by the unexpected bragging. My assistant could only mutter to himself in disbelief. "Your wife woke up early just to cook for you? What kind of perfect dream housewife is she?" And that's where we leave it as he texts her and plans to crash her massive, upcoming physics class. Stay tuned. You and I are jumping in right as he worries his embarrassed wife is too scared to come home. Checking my afternoon schedule, I realized I could actually catch the last half of her lecture. I called my assistant Leo in. "I am leaving early, so anything that is not urgent can wait tomorrow." As Leo nodded, I asked him where to buy flowers. Getting the address, I left, figuring I had just enough time to grab her a bouquet. Staring as I walked away, Leo whipped out his phone and frantically opened the company group chat. Group alert, everyone. The cold boss is finally in love. He is acting like a total schoolboy. Reaching the underground parking garage, I saw his message pop up on my lock screen. Was he serious? I replied to the chat with a passive-aggressive smiley face. Instantly, Leo deleted his text in fear. After buying beautiful tulips at the flower shop, I drove straight to Jingchong University. I figured an elective physics class would be completely empty. I mean, it is physics, right? But I totally underestimated my wife. The huge lecture hall was packed, mostly with eager male students. Pay attention to this crowd, because having a gorgeous young professor is a huge draw, but physics usually weeds most people out. Clearly, I was dead wrong when I stepped in during the second half of class. There were absolutely zero empty seats. Even the back row was packed, and I overheard two guys talking. Professor Zhao is doing a question and answer next, but she usually hides away in her research lab. Word is a computer science genius plans to confess to her after class. A student-teacher romance. Isn't she married? Probably just a rumor to scare guys off since nobody has ever seen her husband. What a crazy rumor to walk into. My wife is incredibly popular. Finding a single empty seat in the middle row, I sat down just as the bell rang. All the noise died down. As a tall silhouette walked through the classroom door, the room fell dead silent. The woman walking in was tall and absolutely stunning. Her expressionless face projected an incredibly cold, icy aura. Watching Professor Zhao on the stage, I thought, if my college professors looked like her, I would have loved physics. Seriously, who does not have that fantasy? Chloe tapped the wooden podium gently with her slender fingers. All right, class is starting now. Quiet down, everyone. I was mesmerized by her stern face, but her inner thoughts were screaming about wanting to eat dinner and sleep with her husband. I could not help but laugh out loud. Classic Chloe. Professional on the outside, but completely unhinged on the inside. My laugh drew her gaze, and she froze as her eyes locked onto me like a laser. You and I both know she panicked immediately, wondering when her giant husband arrived, and if she looked pretty. Oh no, I never look pretty when teaching. What should I do? What do I do? The students only saw their notoriously strict professor suddenly freeze, staring intensely at a random spot in the lecture hall. Her cold expression did not change, but her scary aura instantly vanished. I just stared back at her with a slow, smug smile. Without any walls or closed doors blocking us, I could hear her frantic inner thoughts perfectly from across the room. She thought, calm down, Chloe, you have seen big crowds. Before, I could just treat these students like simple cabbages. But now, my actual husband is sitting right there. Distracted and panicking internally, she shifted her gaze, and her voice became noticeably softer. Standard rules, it is question and answer time. The excited students cheered, absolutely thrilled to escape her brutal pop quizzes. This way, my husband will think I am a gentle teacher. I am not even that strict. Just raise your hands, everyone. I smiled, really just wanting to watch her teach. I had no intention of causing trouble, especially since I failed physics. So, I just watched my wife handle questions like an absolute boss. Then I spotted him, the guy who spammed the school forum confessing to her, a computer science god and genius. He started college at 16 and was already a grad student at 19. Hearing the gossip, I locked eyes on the kid. He looked like a skinny, arrogant teenager with a smug smirk on his face. His eyes were glued to my beautiful wife. From my seat, I could only see his profile. Chloe did not even know who this kid was. In her head, she was just complaining about when class would end, so she could go cuddle her husband. Seeing him stand there in silence, she asked if he had a question or was just wasting everyone's time. Get out of here, kid. Stop keeping me from my husband. But Chad was extremely confident. He blurted out, Professor Zhao, do you have a boyfriend? The room erupted in cheers. But trust me, you and I are about to see her face instantly darken with rage. All right, you and I are starting with our gorgeous professor shutting down personal questions in front of her entire class. She proudly flashes her ring, declaring to the room that she is happily married. Absolutely, nobody believed her since she is young, stunning, and her mysterious husband has never actually shown his face around campus. Our guy watches Chloe, who stays incredibly calm after her initial shock. He wants to see how she handles this annoying student who is clearly trying to make a big scene. But Chad persists, boldly claiming he does not believe she is married and just wants an answer. Chloe shuts him down, threatening to call campus security if he does not leave the lecture hall immediately. She stands tall, sweeping a freezing glare across the entire classroom. She sternly warns the students that she only answers academic questions and expects everyone to follow her rules. Telling them not to waste time on personal curiosity, she is saved by the bell ringing for dismissal. She coldly dismisses them. Now watch closely as they leave. Internally, she is panicking about what her husband thinks, while maintaining her frozen expression as she walks out. She sneaks a quick glance back to make sure he is following her. When he steps behind her, her mood instantly brightens as they walk past the whispering crowd of students. He notices she is intentionally walking slower so he can catch up to her side. She pouts in her mind about him not walking next to her, so he quickly speeds up to match her pace. Her thoughts are racing as she frantically tries to figure out how to start a normal conversation with him. She literally wishes she could Google how to talk to her husband before he chuckles and speaks up. Chloe turns to him with sparkling eyes, barely stopping herself from screaming his name out loud in public. She keeps chanting the word husband in her head since the hallway is still packed with students. He notices almost every single guy walking past staring at her. His wife is seriously popular. He playfully teases her, instantly shattering her cold, aloof professor facade as she blushes. Realizing how hard she works to keep up her ice queen persona, he quickly changes the subject. Asking where her office is, he knows he needs to protect her reputation before people realize she is actually a big softie. Honestly, I know what you are thinking. He does not want bratty students hitting on his wife. Seeing the students watching, Chloe quickly puts her serious face back on. She desperately wants to hold his hand right now, but she forces herself to act like a mature, emotionally detached professor. She plans to lock her office door, block out the light, and completely pounce on him. If she actually did that, he would be thrilled, but she is totally all talk and no action. Suddenly, footsteps echo behind them as Chad chases them down, bringing her joyful mental roller coaster to a dead stop. She turns around with a deep frown as Chad blocks their path, giving him a very weird look. Chad demands to speak with her, and looks at our guy, wondering why he is still standing there. Chad likely assumes our main character is just some older-looking graduate student assisting her. He gets the silent dismissal but does not budge, since class is over and he is done playing nice. There is no way he is letting another guy hit on his wife, right in front of him. Chloe coldly tells Chad to leave a message on her faculty page if his questions are strictly about schoolwork. Internally, she is begging him to leave, so she does not lose her courage to cuddle her husband. He can only smile, comparing her outwardly freezing demeanor with her chaotic, adorable thoughts. Stunned by her dismissal, Chad reaches out to grab her wrist as she turns away. His hand flies out, intercepting Chad instantly, while warning him that his wife is strictly off the clock. Both Chloe and Chad freeze, whipping their heads around to look at him. Chloe stares blankly before a wave of absolute, smug joy washes over her face, prompting him to pull his adorable dork of a wife close to his side. He tells her to stop grinning like a goofball while Chad stands there in absolute shock. The rumors were true. She really is married, and Chloe cannot help but sound incredibly smug. She proudly says they are going to lunch, and honestly, you and I just witnessed a perfect win. Let's dive in. This serious professor is practically making out with her husband right now, but her brain is just spouting absolute nonsense. Hubby, hubby, hubby. She's so thrilled she finally gets to say it. And if they're husband and wife, kissing is just completely logical, right? She figures if they kiss, touching is totally fine too. Plus, he is definitely not a kid anymore. Her face is blushing, but her thoughts are running on pure spicy fuel. Meanwhile, Chad slinks off, totally defeated. Exactly what he wanted. He keeps his arm around Chloe as they walk to her office, and her crazy thoughts finally quiet down. She shares the office, but thankfully it's empty. She pushes the door open and invites him inside. Our main character was totally expecting her to lock the door and pounce, but she is just a big talker in her head. She closes the door without locking it, looking up at him shyly. Did you really just tell that student I'm your wife? Isn't that the truth? Did I stutter? He raises his hand, wiggling his ring finger to show off their matching wedding bands. It was their strange, silent rule. They had a miserable marriage, but neither of them ever took those rings off. Suddenly, Chloe grabs his hand, slowly intertwining their fingers. She looks up, her face absolutely burning red with embarrassment. You didn't misspeak. They are beautiful, right? He is completely shocked by how genuinely thrilled she sounds over his words. They are beautiful. I actually made this one. Remember when I said I was picking them out? I handcrafted them myself. Now, stick with me here. Looking at that ring, he is totally speechless, because he always assumed they had a rushed marriage. Met, married, 3 months later, he assumed the rings were store-bought. They did not even take wedding photos. He never knew she spent so much time crafting these. And so much more. He apologizes. His voice suddenly dry. It is okay, I never told you. I know you are busy. Sometimes I got a little sad, but only a tiny bit. You look so handsome when you work. I just wished you thought of me sometimes, or came home for our anniversaries. But it is fine. Good girls get rewarded. You are not busy right now, and you actually came to pick me up. Hearing her make excuses for him hurts his heart. He squeezes her hand tightly and pulls her firmly into a warm hug. Instantly, all her sadness vanishes. He actually hugged her. She is falling even harder for him today. Plus 100 points for her husband. He kisses her forehead gently, wishing he had known sooner. He assumed she wanted to keep a polite distance, even with the rings, but she interrupts, looking up shyly. That is all in the past, but if you want to make it up to me, you can kiss me. He chuckles, brushing hair from her cheek. She looks like a deer caught in headlights, instinctively leaning back as he gets close. He slides an arm around her lower back to steady her. Why run? Didn't you say a kiss buys my forgiveness? She stiffens as he touches her waist, blushing furiously before her entire body goes completely soft. But the door is not locked. What if someone walks in? Can she handle this kind of drama? But pushing him away is impossible. She absolutely cannot do that. Should she just close her eyes? Her internal panic is honestly hilarious. She is so loud in her head during this romance. So, he does what we would do, and kisses her. Instantly, her mental chatter dies. He stares into her shocked eyes for 3 seconds, then covers them with his hand. She obediently tilts her head up, letting him kiss her deeply. He pulls her close, feeling her small hands nervously grip his shirt like a kitten clutching on tight, too scared to let go. Should she say yes, or definitely say yes? He finally pulls back, gently tracing kisses to the corners of her red-rimmed eyes. She looks so incredibly adorable and pitiful. Her eyelashes flutter, and she buries her face into his chest. Kissing is seriously addictive once you start. He looks down at her. The mood is absolutely perfect. Can you stop groping me? Even through his shirt, her feeling up his abs is pretty distracting. She realizes she is totally busted. With totally fake confidence, she mumbles into his chest that she's just returning the favor since he touched her waist. It is equal exchange, right? He laughs as they make eye contact. She tries to look away, but forces herself to stare back bravely. She thinks staring wide-eyed makes her look bold. The more she does this, the more he wants to tease her. Forget equal exchange. Why did you call me Liam earlier? Her confident little bubble bursts instantly. She stammers. It's a complete emergency. Her brain has 0 RAM. And she literally cannot think of a single excuse. Her mind is just full of him. Squeezing her eyes shut, she finally confesses. She was too scared of awkward rejection. But trust me, you'll love this. He just laughs and tells her to call him hubby forever. You and I are about to see her freeze as he smiles coaxingly at her. The tension melts away, and she cannot help but smile. Turns out, just being direct is the best way to communicate. They still were not used to this, but progress was definitely being made. He checked the time. Time to pack up and grab some real food because boring box lunches completely suck. As they walked out, he noticed her bag. He offered to carry it, remembering how other guys always hold their girlfriends' bags. She looked from him to the bag, protesting that it matched her outfit, before boldly linking her arm with his. It does not match your look at all, but who cares? You are my best accessory today, since we are the perfect match. Why hold a bag when you can hold me? Her weird possessive streak was honestly adorable. He realized he was slowly getting brainwashed by her crazy logic, actually starting to agree with her wild thoughts. Was this the classic boiling frog effect? They strolled across campus together toward his parked car. He enjoyed the walk, prompting Chloe to bring up a normal topic by asking why he never attended school here. Simply to escape my parents, he laughed, since his entire family was made of high-achieving academic elites. He knew he did not have the patience for research, but parents always try to pave a perfect road for their kids. He had a happy childhood, spoiled by his family, meaning he never went through a big rebellious phase. Now pay attention to Chloe's reaction here, because she honestly could not comprehend that mindset. He looked at her, seeing she was dead serious that her parents planned everything, except marrying him. She did that herself. Her mother, a top corporate executive, even quit her high-paying job to accompany her abroad. Knowing she was incredibly important to them, she stayed obedient. But something felt totally off here. Her family was wealthy, with her late father leaving massive assets, but her mother was just a housewife. He had only met his mother-in-law 3 times, and her icy personality made him think Chloe got it from her. Wondering if her mother hated him, he asked if Chloe was just their meticulously crafted masterpiece. She probably looked down on a guy running a tiny startup 2 years ago, but they finally reached the car. He opened the door, and Chloe's face lit up seeing tulips on the passenger seat. She grabbed them happily, just as he promised, and she smiled with pure joy, declaring how much she loved them. She absolutely loved them. Seeing her pure joy made the entire trip feel worth it, and then she unexpectedly leaned up to kiss his cheek. Declaring her happiness, Liam realized he was getting used to her sudden attacks. He touched his cheek, teasingly pointing to his lips to demand a real kiss. She blushed deeply, whispering that her rewards of cuddling and kissing would have to wait until they got home. She secretly wished she could glue herself to him right there, though he knew she was mostly talk. Deciding not to tease her anymore, he asked what she wanted for dinner, and she did not hesitate. Demanding hot pot, he agreed and drove toward the commercial district, letting the heavy topic of her mother drop. Her silence was answer enough, but she was happily humming in the passenger seat while clutching her flowers. You and I would probably cover our ears. Because she was completely tone-deaf. Suddenly, she spoke up, saying her mother's approval did not matter since she was the one spending her life with him. She explained that her strict parents thought she was a genius, but all she actually knew how to do was study. She felt he lived in the real world while she just hid away doing research in an ivory tower. He told her not to put herself down, reminding her that he could not understand a single word of her smart lecture. She argued that he built his own life, whereas she would be absolutely nothing without her brain. Hearing her deep insecurity was bizarre, as he wondered how a brilliant prodigy could suffer from such low self-esteem. He firmly stated that her contribution to society is undeniable. Making a living is fine, but her intelligence and vast knowledge were a core part of who she is. He scolded himself for ignoring her beauty for a second, then asked how she could think she had nothing. He assured Chloe she was incredible, saying anyone else would think she was just humble, bragging, making her laugh. She insisted that compared to him, all she could ever do was study, with no real-world skills. He assured her she was amazing for teaching others, and trust me, you and I can see they belong in the exact same category. Pay attention here. She whispered she wanted us together, so I quickly called her the star of our family. I told her she is the one taking care of me, and instantly, her frown melted away. She was so incredibly easy to coax. That single sentence cured her mood, and she glowed through our hot pot dinner. Maybe hearing that she was the caretaker triggered something, because she basically spooned me the entire meal. I was thrilled, happily playing along with her sudden caretaker instincts. I had totally figured her out. Chloe was essentially a child at heart. When she admitted she lacked social skills, she really meant it. But that naive, unfiltered honesty was why she was so endearing. She literally acted cold and intellectual for 2 years because she thought I liked that. Anyone else would have tested the waters or just asked directly. And that is how we leave them. She grew up so sheltered, never tricked by anyone, and now she is all mine.